Hi, my name is Shannon Carter, Family and Consumer Sciences Educator with Ohio State University Extension in Fairfield County, and I would like to share with you about my upcoming series on gluten-free eating, so stay tuned for more information about that program.
Welcome to this week's edition of Fairfield Focus, and I'm pleased to have our Family Consumer Science educator with us, Shannon Carter. Welcome to Fairfield Focus.
Yep.
You know, we like to share things on this little YouTube about things that are happening, and you're not going to teach me to bake today, correct?
Not today.
Not today. Good deal. Okay, so we're going to talk gluten-free eating, and I think everyone knows, but for those who maybe are watching and listening, you really have firsthand experience transitioning your kitchen from non-gluten-free to gluten-free, correct?
Correct.
Tell us about that.
About 3.5 years ago, my daughter was diagnosed with celiac disease, which is one of the 3 medical reasons to go gluten-free. And with that diagnosis, it meant that she had to follow a 100% strict gluten-free diet. A crumb of gluten could make her sick for weeks.
Okay.
So we tried in my kitchen to keep my husband's gluten bread in a little separate area. We had separate shelves in our cupboards. My daughter had everything color-coded by shelf paper. We went through everything. And we tried that for about 2 months, and it was really hard to keep all the gluten crumbs in one area and then have the rest of it safe for my daughter, and then later my son, who was also diagnosed with celiac. So it only took about 2 or 3 months, and my husband said, I can give up my bread just to keep our kids safe.
Yeah, sure.
So we transitioned to an entirely gluten-free kitchen, and it is so much easier.
Well, and let's be honest with our listeners. A lot of school was missed.
Oh, yeah.
It took a long time to figure out exactly what was happening, and then the healing process took a long time.
It took years.
Yeah.
She was so long being undiagnosed. So if you're curious more about celiac, you can go to celiac.org. They have a symptom checker there. There's 200 symptoms, but she had gone years without a diagnosis, so her body was. It took a long time to heal.
Yeah. Okay. So that's kind of maybe the emphasis behind this gluten-free series you're doing. It's Thursday, beginning March 21st, and then the 28th and April 4th, all Thursday nights, correct?
Correct.
Here at the Ag Center.
That's right.
Okay. But let's just say you don't have that diagnosis, but you think, I just want to reduce some of the heaviness of gluten, you know, like bread or like pasta.
Mm-hmm.
Can you do that? I mean, how do you do that? How do you start that process?
Sure. So if you don't have celiac or a wheat allergy or even a gluten sensitivity, but you think, you know, gluten may be causing some inflammation in my body, because different types of foods work differently for different people. So if you're experimenting with that, you can probably make some of those changes, reduce the gluten, even if you're not eliminating it 100%, without having to worry too much about what we call cross-contamination, where you would have those gluten crumbs getting mixed in with some of your gluten-free foods. So if you don't have that medical diagnosis, or you haven't noticed an extreme sensitivity, you probably don't need to be concerned about going 100% gluten-free.
Okay, but let's say I'm thinking I want to start to make that change.
Okay.
So you're telling me I can still keep my flour and use it.
Mm-hmm.
I could maybe still keep my pasta reserves and use those, but maybe think about the next time I go to the grocery store. What do I look for? How do I shop if I want to start the transition ever so gently?
Sure. One of the easiest changes to make is pasta.
Okay.
Gluten-free pasta is pretty good. I have 2 examples here. This happens to be the same brand.
Okay.
And you only see the one difference on there is where it says gluten-free. So that means that instead of made with wheat flour, it's made with usually a combination of rice and corn flour.
Okay.
And you would boil and strain it pretty much the same way as you would your regular wheat pasta. The difference is it doesn't store great in the refrigerator, or just doesn't keep well
Okay.
over a period of time. So
Okay.
use it within a day or two. It just tends to dry out.
Oh, okay.
Is the difference.
Okay.
So that would be a very easy transition for someone to make. Also, there's a lot of gluten-free crackers available. That would be another option to just look for things that say gluten-free on the label.
Okay, so then let's say I get through, my flour reserve and I want to maybe transition to a gluten-free flour.
Sure.
So do I bake differently with a gluten-free flour, or?
Yes,
how do I
that's
do that?
so that's a really good question. When you're baking gluten-free, you have to kind of take everything you know about regular baking with wheat flour and just forget that.
Throw it out the window.
Just throw that out the window.
Okay.
When you use gluten-free alternatives, you need to use a combination of flours. So again, it's like rice and corn, sometimes potato starch, tapioca
Okay.
starch. You'll learn about starches you never knew about.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting to look in the gluten-free flour section. But they also make flours that are already considered an all-purpose flour that you can simply do cup for cup of what you would have done with the wheat
sure.
flour.
Okay.
So that's, if for someone who's just starting, that's what I recommend, because it's very easy
Okay.
to just do a measuring cup that way. And if you use a recipe that says for gluten-free, you might have a little bit better results. And you can find many of those on the internet.
Okay. And here's the thing I think is really interesting is, I'm kind of addicted to grocery shopping. You all know I like to have lots of stuff. And so, I am amazed when I go to even a variety of grocery stores, there is truly always that gluten-free section that seems to grow.
Yes.
It seems to be
It's,
growing.
yeah, it's growing in consumer demand. A lot of more people are wanting to go gluten-free for a variety of reasons. So that's driving the demand and then driving up the supply. Now, some stores have a gluten-free section. You'll sometimes find it with the organics or natural foods.
Sure.
But then a lot of foods are just mixed in right beside the other foods in the same aisle. So that's what I like to purchase, because it's often going to taste more similar to what we're used to, because it's made by the same companies, and they're just using those different flours to make it.
I thought it was interesting when I was looking at your flyer, 20% of the U.S. population is looking to reduce or go gluten-free for a variety of reasons. And so that's a good, healthy number of folks who are making that conscious decision.
Now, that's a lot. And there's really only 6 or 7% of that 20 that have one of those 3 medical diagnoses, the celiac, gluten sensitivity, or wheat allergy. So the other 13% are kind of that experimental, where maybe they have some symptoms they think might be resolved by trying gluten-free.
Yeah,
So
awesome. So help us out one more time. Your flyer here talks about your gluten-free eating classes. Dates again, Shannon.
sure, they're all on Thursdays. They start Thursday, March 21st, and then we'll go the next 2 weeks, March 28th and April 4th. It's at 6:30 here at the Ag Center. There is a small registration class because I'm going to provide you some good samples.
Yeah, and the supplies.
Yeah.
And handouts and all
Right.
that kind of stuff. So can they just stop by the office and pay for their fee prior
Sure.
to the class? Because you really need to know how many people you're having,
We
right?
do want people to register ahead of time, so I make
Okay.
sure that we're well prepared. But in terms of payment, we have an online site that you can go in. You can do by credit card if you want. You can send a check in, or you can even pay the first night of the series. As long as we know you're coming, that's what's most helpful.
Absolutely. Go.osu.edu. Gluten-free spring 2019. We'll throw that out there also on the website, just so you know. But my good friend and guest, Shannon Carter, family consumer science educator here in Fairfield County. Thanks for being a part of Fairfield Focus, and who knows, this might be the spring to try something different.
Sounds good.